Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz got himself his very first Republican primary challenger this week, a man by the name of Byron Jones, who actually served as an Air Force special op in both Iraq and Afghanistan. So he's a veteran, he owns a CrossFit gym, and he came out swinging hard against Matt Gaetz this week. Let me read you what he said, and this was to the Washington Examiner. Our district deserves an effective, values-driven leader in Congress, not someone under investigation for crimes that should disgust every decent Floridian. Residents deserve a congressman who reflects their values. You aren't going to get a career politician. You aren't going to get someone who wants to get on the media and be a talking head for their glory and ego. Send me to Washington and you get a leader who's always going to be on your side. He hit, and again, this dude's a Republican. I can guarantee you that I'm not going to agree with anything he does other than his attacks on Matt Gaetz. But he hit every single point that I have been begging the Democrats who have run against him to use against him. Specifically, obviously back then, we didn't have the investigation into, the possibly perverted behavior here, but we did have the fact that Matt Gaetz was a glory hog. Matt Gaetz would do any and everything to get on television, to be famous, for everyone to know his name and to adore him. He truly is a little Donald Trump. He just wants that time in the spotlight. And that's evidenced now by the fact that he still, as a member of Congress, has started his own podcast, right? Matt Gaetz wants to be famous. He doesn't want to serve. He has done nothing during his time in office, this was his third term, nothing for this district. And I know because I live here. I see it every day. And we have had major problems. Last year, we got slammed by Hurricane Sally. Matt Gaetz was silent. Didn't do crap. And I say that because we did have local Republican officials who serve in the state government that were here in Pensacola, visiting, touring, talking with local leaders, talking with law firms about how we move forward, how we rebuild. And even though, again, I disagree with everything these people do, they were here and they were actually trying to help to a degree. Possibly for the photo op, that's not for me to decide. I've made up my mind though. But anyway, Gaetz wasn't here, and that's another thing that is dragging him down. He's not here. Traveling the country with Marjorie Taylor Greene over the summer, going to California, going to the Midwest, going up north, going down South Florida. But not here. Not here. And that is a big thing that a lot of the Republicans in this area have said. They have said, quote, he has abandoned us. And that, I think, is going to play almost as big of a role in this Republican primary, especially if Byron Jones makes it a part of the primary, as the ongoing investigation. The investigation is already hurting him. For the first time ever, this week, a poll came out showing Matt Gaetz has a below 50% approval rating in this district. His Democratic opponent, Rebecca Jones, who is not related to Byron Jones, the Republican primary opponent, she's within 8 points of him in polling. Matt Gaetz isn't even polling at 50% in head-to-head matchups. That's a big problem for him in this deep red district. If Byron Jones goes this hard against Matt Gaetz throughout the entire primary, I believe Gaetz is done. I believe he will lose this primary if Byron Jones remains this kind of fighter. And the reason I mentioned that he is a veteran, that he owns a CrossFit gym, he checks off a lot of the Republican boxes, especially in this area, this district that has 3 major military bases in it. Matt Gaetz never served. Matt Gaetz is, possibly, at least under investigation, for maybe having relations with a minor. Byron Jones isn't. This election for Jones should be a walk in the park. And not that I want him to win. I would rather see Rebecca Jones win, but I know this district. And my dislike, distrust, and sometimes outright hatred for Matt Gaetz, I hope he loses. Not that we're going to get anybody better, but we may just have one less ridiculously obscene congressperson walking around D.C. after next year's midterms.